Welcome everyone to the February koha-US System Administrator User Group meeting. I only have two things really on the agenda for today, and also sorry for everyone who didn't get the notes from last time and the agenda or the reminder about this email because I sent it to the wrong system admin at a different group and nobody told me. So I'll send out last month's meetings minutes with this month's meeting minutes later this week. So one of the things, well, and actually Daniel, I see you are here, and last time that you were here 2 meetings ago, we talked about you were going to try to use the grace period as part of your fine-free setup, and I was wondering if you'd tested that at all.
Yeah, it didn't work. It was more about when the fine was going to be levied, and it didn't have anything to do with blocking the user from borrowing, which was I was kind of going for. I had to use the preference about blocking on a certain amount of days, I think. But yeah, in general, it just didn't work out. So
yeah. Okay, we talked about it a little at the last meeting. We're wondering how it went. Brenda Owens had emailed about, oh yeah, she's here. If we have any resources for going fine-free anywhere and like all the things that need to be done. And she said morning in the chat. I don't know of anything, but that might be something good for us and or the education committee maybe to put together like a reference sheet of all the things that you need. And I know so far Jason and I are the only people who have finished reference sheets, I think. And I feel like I'm probably volunteering to make that by bringing it up. Once I'm done with my template toolkit one, I'll try and get ahead on that. Yeah, like the biggest things that I remember from when we went fine-free this summer are changing the circ and fine rules so there's no fines anymore. And then we set up our overdue notices to restrict patrons after. Right now we have it set to 10 days because we're quarantining everything for a week when it comes in at my library. And so we set it to 10 days. I think we're going to do 3 days probably when we get to a point where we aren't quarantining anymore. And then
off topic, but how did you choose the quarantine time?
So we started with like following the realm study, and at one point they had come out and said 7 days, and then I know that since they've come out and said like really, well, we can still test that the virus is on there, it's probably not viable that long just because we can still test traces of it, and we just haven't we've been like behind enough that we couldn't catch up if we tried to start. Like we only got Monday's book drop from last week all checked in at like around when I left at 6, and we were only open for another hour. But we are also prioritizing like holds that come in from the consortium ahead of checking in the book drop. But still, like we don't have a ton of time to get caught up on that right now without like bringing in extra people. So I think for now we're just like we're leaving it as it is because the system works.
And sorry, I'll be right back. I think someone needs.
And it looks like Heather put some resources for going fine-free in there.
Guess I was just kind of looking for like screenshots of what a patron account might look like. It sounds like I have the same thing set up. We're using the overdue notices And I have the restricted checkbox marked on all the patron types. But what does that look like on a patron account? Is
Here,
it easy for staff to override, that sort of thing?
Yeah, let me see if I have any of my not real. We have our frosty patrons are like fake patrons. Let me see if any of them have a restriction right now. And I think you might have to turn on a system preference to let people override. I don't recall. We didn't have to change anything. Okay, that's just charges. I mean, it's very similar to like the, oh, well, I guess, I don't know if you had, we already had restrictions on for like long overdue lost items, and it works very similarly. So I could also do one where I just add a manual restriction because it looks pretty similar. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna do. So, oh wait, did I share the wrong screen? Can you see a Koha or a Google?
Gilbert Frosty.
Okay, yeah. So this is just one of our like test in logins training stuff. And it makes this restricted. Patron's account is restricted with the explanation. I did a manual restriction, but it would instead say like overdue process is what it says, I think, or something similar to that. And then you can override the restriction temporarily. Like if you want to check out books the patron that day, you can do that. And then it just works for like that checkout session. You don't have to press the override again. And then you can see the restrictions down here too. And with overdues, it'll say like when it was created, indefinite. It's supposed to come off when we get a return. I do know we've occasionally had that not happen. And actually, I'm going to look in my Slack right now because Andrew wrote me a message this morning about it. Sometimes when they renew overdue items after they're restricted, it caused this, but it looks like that's been fixed now. So at least once you're updated to 2011, that shouldn't be an issue. We still have some lingering ones from before we got patched last fall. Because we've had this turned on for our like long overdue ones for a while.
So before, when we had fines, way back in the before times, we set the fine amount to like $10. And once they hit that limit, their patron category would go from staff or adult to blocked.
Oh, interesting.
So this doesn't do that. It leaves their patron type set, but it just gives the restriction with overdues.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, let's say you do your blocks based on when your notices go out.
Yeah, here I can show that.
Yeah,
also.
I know them. I was just wondering. We do it when a person is charged above $10, and that's usually when our item is set to loss. They're charged the replacement fee.
Yeah, so we have both turned on.
Okay.
So we have in our notice triggers, I know you said you knew where they were, but in case anybody else doesn't, except I clicked the wrong thing there. So we have it set to restrict and send email or text messages. And then we also have it set to $5 because that was what the consortium agreed at one point. Although we have talked about raising it to 10 since only one library in our consortium does fees anymore, and they're pretty small. and they don't seem to care if we raise the limit to 10. So then, just in case, especially with the way our setup is right now, we get our patrons get fines if they have that one library's books overdue, which especially with the quarantine periods is a little bit annoying. So that's why we're looking at upping it, just so that our patrons aren't blocked.
It looks like the ability to override those is a staff permission rather than assistant preference. It's one of those
Okay.
circulation permissions.
So you'll
So
need
if
to
you,
make sure.
I don't, force checkout limit, I think it's this one. Force checkout of a limitation exists. So if you have some staff you don't want to be able to override those restrictions, you can adjust their permissions.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we're working on building a new website, and in the Bywater Partners Slack, Christopher Brandon had pointed out a plugin for WordPress, which is what we're using to make Koha like cover flows on your website. And it's compatible with Koha, and it has an open source plugin, and it's pretty cool. I thought I might just show what we've set up for that real quick. Also, I emailed the person who makes the plugin, who does most of the work on it, and because it works like similar to the CoverFlow plugin in Koha, where it's based on a report, and you put in like a public report, and then you select where you want your images from, like Amazon or Google Books or whatever in the plugin. But I was also wondering about using it for things with local cover images. And so I just emailed them and I was like, I know that in Koha reporting, there's ways to get local cover images. Is that something that you'd be interested in adding, so we could like use our kits and stuff where we're putting in our own images of our kits? And he actually just emailed me this morning that, yeah, I've updated it and now it can do that based off the biblio number. As long as the biblio number's in the report, you can select cover images for that one. I haven't started playing around with that yet, but it's really nice because you can do like grids, or so you can do like the cover flow like you might have on the front of Koha, that's just like a little carousel, or you can also do like a grid similar to like Jason's puppets that you showed off at one of the conferences in the past. And I'll preview the page. And so like we're thinking of doing that for some of our kits to show those off on our new website. This is our like super rough, we've mostly just been testing out plugins front page of our new website. Oh, well, that's okay. There we go. And so like it works really well. It does move though. On the preview, it doesn't always do the moving, only when you're on the actual page. Why did it do that again? Oh, there. Sometimes it does it on the preview.
Because they're trying to show it to us.
Yeah. And then it takes you to the OPAC if you click on it. My computer's also running very slow this morning, which might have to do with my 1,000 tabs that I have open in Chrome today. But it'll take you to that biblio in Koha. And there's other settings for like how you want it to look and stuff. This is just like basically the default setting there. So that is pretty cool. And I'll say what it's called in the notes. I mean, I can also tell you now, but I'll make sure to put it in the notes as well. I just have to go back to the admin side because I forgot. It's literally something like bookshelf plugin. Yeah, bookshelves. And so
on the back end, all you do is put in your report, your public report URL.
Yeah, here I'll show you. So you, if you're like making a new bookshelf, and then it makes the little like short code, like a bunch of plugins do short code things. So you can either input them as a list or retrieve from a web service, and then you can select like Koha reports web service or RSS feed or JSON data. Like you can, it's got some other ones that it works with as well. And then you could put in the list of the public report and how frequently it should run. I have it set up to use Amazon CDN. So I actually used that code that we talked about last time, Jason, with the reports to standardize the ISBNs. I used to be able to standardize it to the 10 ISBN for this. And then, oh, and you can disable item links if you don't want to send, or if you want to link it to like Overdrive or Hoopla instead. Like if you want to do here's books that we don't put Overdrive into our catalog, but some people do. So then if you wanted to like link that and have it go to Overdrive instead, that's an option. And I'm not sure if this is the most up-to-date version of, I don't know if this got updated yet, because usually I get updates overnight. And then there's also, accessibility. You can use tabbing and arrow navigation. And it just pulls from your main settings unless you go and change this. So there's all sorts of things that you can change in each one. And like different response jQuery and stuff. And so it's nice and it's pretty simple to use. And yeah, and it's just called bookshelves. And you can set, let's see, I think that's to set it to different. I'm not actually sure what the locations do. I haven't looked at that much, but it's a neat little plugin and I thought it was really easy to use, like the kind of thing that if you know your how to get reports out, it's really easy to just set it up. I've pretty much am just on the this is the global settings. I'm pretty much on the global settings, I think. I don't think I changed any of the like defaults. So it's a nice little slick little plugin for doing nice cover flows on not Koha, but with your Koha stuff.
Can you set up just a text file of ISBNs?
Yeah, you can do, let's see. I think it did item numbers, but I wonder if you could do, no, you can do just enter ISBNs. Although here it says item numbers, but I think you can do it as, yeah, input items from a list, because it says enter ISBNs here. So you could just, yeah, paste in enter items as a one per line, or as a comma space or tab delimited.
Okay.
Delimited list.
Yeah, we mostly check out one book, so. Like a little variety.
Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty neat little plugin worth sharing, especially if you use WordPress. I don't know. I don't think there's versions of it for other website builders, but I know a lot of people use WordPress, so we thought that might be of interest. Does anyone have any other systems things they'd like to talk about today?
So I'm not sure if this is really, it's kind of a systems and maybe a web developer at the same time, but I'm looking at authenticating a resource through PHP and SIP. I'm not sure. I have no experience with PHP, but I was wondering if anybody knew a good way to start, or any idea how to do what I'm trying to do. So user authentication through SIP, through PHP into Koha to get them into a database.
So what are you trying to connect to?
We're thinking about subscribing to the Wall Street Journal, and as far as I can tell, they don't have an easy proxy stanza for them. So I was thinking that we probably have to do PHP to authenticate our users before they can get to Wall Street Journal.
I'm trying to think of if I know any libraries that have a Wall Street Journal subscription that patrons can log into.
So they gave me a couple, but the ones that they showed, they were Cersei Dynix users. So I'm not sure if they use Symfony or Horizon, but I got the PHP code from one of them. So
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can think of any Koha libraries, I guess, that are on it off the top of my head. I don't know enough about PHP. That might, I wonder if Ed would know much about that. I know he's done more.
should I try and like lurk in the web developers meeting, or?
I mean, you could definitely come.
Yeah, Lucas might have
Lucas might have
solutions.
ideas.
I don't know. You could also try emailing the list for this group, because Ed's on the list, I'm sure, but can't make these meetings. So there might be somebody on the list that has more experience with that, or just the broader lists even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that if you do the like full Koha, not the koha-US, but the full Koha New Zealand
Global list. Yeah.
Thank you. If you do the global list, a lot of the developers are on there, and they, have written some of the current SIP authentication that gets used with other products, so they might have ideas too.
I'll give that a shot. Thanks.
Yeah, I haven't been able to do a whole lot of Koha stuff since our last meeting. We've just been like working on the website and some report stuff. Oh, there was something. Oh, do any of the other libraries here use PayPal with Koha? We just turned ours on.
We do, and it was kind of a chore to get it to connect. But that just might have been like the way that we originally set up the PayPal account.
Yeah, we got it connected fine, but then for our first couple payments, we had to go in and approve them. I think we've got it set up now so that it'll just work, but we had to go in and be like, this is an online service that has already been done before they would release the money, which was it seemed weird to us, but I think it was because of how our PayPal account was set up. And then, yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty smooth for us, but it was I think it was just a matter of finding all the passwords and getting all the correct secret keys and doodads to line up. So
With the PayPal, what level of PCI compliance, or I think our city was worried about that, and so we're using Comprise, but of course that costs money. So when you're doing the PayPal, you're leaving Koha and going out into the PayPal environment, and are you totally within them, and so the PCI compliance is like out there?
Yeah, so it like links out here. Let me let me find one of these accounts, these Frosties that have fines. But it's like when you go to a website and you order with PayPal, you just like select PayPal as the method, and then it pops up PayPal, and you either log in or can just say like just enter my credit card information in here without having to log in, and then you do it all in there. That's where the payment happens. And so that's PCI PCI compliant.
Okay.
Also, we kind of got around that by our consortium is a business, so none of the cities really had any say in it. None of the city libraries, just because like it's not on the city website or anything, and the way that we're dealing with the funds is basically only the items that are still in the system and associated with a library. When those get paid off, they get sent to the owning library, and everything else is just going into the fund for like overdrive purchases and our online resources, instead of trying to like figure out going back. We have a lot of like rebuild items where maybe there's notes in the field, but we like wrote off the fine and then made a new manual fine with some of the information so we could delete the item but still keep some of the information. But at this point, I think we've kind of decided like that's still good if people are paying in person, but we don't want to leave things in forever in the system that should be deleted but haven't been paid off yet, so that we can use the PayPal basically without making too much trouble for ourselves, because we've got like 48 libraries in our consortium. And so we decided it was easier to just say anything that's not like clearly for one library or another is just going to go into the like shared fund for digital resources at this point, at least. So just taking some notes for our minutes. Okay. Any other systems topics people have, or are we going to have a short meeting this week? Because I sent the call for items to the wrong list.
Well, I don't know if this is systems, but does anybody else use Cloud Library?
we do.
Somehow,
Pueblo uses it, so
I'm sorry, what was that?
Pueblo, we use it. We
You
use
do?
Cloud Library. Yeah.
So we lost our when you see the record in the OPAC, you're supposed to be able to, when you log in, you're supposed to be able to see like how many copies or if it's checked out or whatever. And it's doing that on our staff side, but it's not doing that in the OPAC. So I feel like I've lost some kind of setting or something.
Yeah, we go through Discovery, and they have or Aspen,
Mhm.
and they have an API that already plugs in and grabs all that info. So we actually are getting rid of the records in the staff client. So just to clear it up, but that's how we handle ours.
Yeah, we're not Aspen, so.
I still haven't installed the plugin because I'm scared, but I think it's on my near immediate to-do list. So if I see the same bug, I will definitely let you know. Maybe I'll do it. Web dev's next week, right? Maybe I'll do it before web dev next week, and then we can talk about it there again. It's also not web dev related. I guess I could do it this afternoon, and we could talk about it at the general meeting tomorrow. And I could share my horror stories if it crashes my system or not.
Sounds like a plan to me.
So the plugin, does it require the records from the cloud, or is it something else?
It goes out to Cloud Library and harvests the records from there and brings the bib record in. It doesn't create items, which is an issue for us. We have item records attached to all of our digital records for statistical purposes mostly. And the plugin works pretty well. You just go in and you put in date, like the date that you want it to go from, and it goes out and brings back, it'll say like, it created 50 records, and then it created 48 records, and then it created 25 records, and then it's done. So it kind of goes in little blocks. And it seems to work fine. I just somehow have lost the sort of real interactive display between the record and the actual, I don't know, I've lost something.
Okay. Any other systems or general Koha stuff?
Sort of. This may be cataloging, or maybe systems, or maybe something completely else. But I've got a dozen brilliant people who know more than I do. So I am in process of updating some bundles of online journals from McGraw-Hill and Elsevier, a few others. And what I've been doing is finding the upload from the previous time and just removing that upload from the catalog. Can't undo from the staged management file to undo, and then putting in the new one. Is that going to wipe out all the print copies we have? Because sometimes we have, let's see, there's one book, Harrison's, which everyone has. Some guy named Fauci is one of the co-authors. But we have it online and in print. Am I going to lose the print if I do it this way, or? And I should add, the print one obviously has items attached to it. The online has an item record, but no barcode. Because I found that if I don't put an item, horrible things happen.
So are they separate files? Like you've got one for physical files and one for digital?
In some cases, maybe all, I can't remember, the physical, bib record, there's the electronic and the print on the same bib record.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think when you undo those imports, it pulls out all the bib records you imported. I see Heather nodding, so she might have
Okay.
more input on this.
Well, fortunately, I'm experimenting on a backup copy that I spun into another Koa instance. So I see if I'm doing tomorrow. Heather, you may be getting a panicked email from me.
I'm here for you, Fred.
And a couple of new limericks if you want.
Oh, yes, please.
It's supposed to snow here tomorrow. Maybe I'll just hide under the couch.
It snowed here yesterday, so we've got kind of a winter wonderland situation outside.
Yeah, but you folks probably know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's true. Also, it was the most interesting snow where it stuck really nicely on everything except the streets and sidewalks.
Oh, very polite snow.
Yeah,
That's what we had Sunday.
Yeah. So we had that Sunday and then it kind of melted off yesterday morning and then we had it again last night and it was like, perfect. That's the best kind of snow. And we never get it here either because usually we just, if it snows, either it's like freezing rain plus snow and we get weird ice everywhere, or it's just like 8 inches of snow or 4 inches of snow. So it's been nice this week getting polite snow. Okay.
So, Heather, what's the subject heading for polite snow? Is there a subdivision? Or is that, should cataloging humor be reserved just for the cataloging group?
Oh no, it can be. I think
Yeah,
we can all appreciate it.
definitely. And probably a C reference to like the social conditions, snow.
Yes. Actually, I have a poem about snow arriving in the DC area. Is everybody here on the KOA list? koha-US list, that is. Okay.
Okay, well, I think that that's probably it for this meeting, and I'll send out both minutes this week to the right place this time. And I'm on the other list, so I got them, and I was like, good, they went through, and did not notice that they had gone to the wrong one. So.
Okay, well, I have to go abandon my car on the Beltway so I can get a good spot.
Okay, sounds good. Our next meeting, let's see, is March 9th because March and February have the same days. Or the same first 28 days at least. So good. Okay. That'll be our next meeting. And we'll stop the recording.